Hi, this is Stacia, and I wanted to share my games from a recent tournament that I played, a slow time control tournament, 100 minutes for 40 moves, 10-second delay, and 30-minute sudden death after 40. And yeah, it was the Cleveland Holiday Open. And this was in Mayfield Heights, Ohio, at the Hilton Garden Inn. Played the weekend before Christmas. I actually did score fairly well in this tournament compared to usual. I won't tell you the exact score yet. But this here is my first game. Played against someone named Brandon, I forget his last name, but he was rated 1645 and I was rated 1544. I played in the under 1800 section. Um, so let's have a look at the game. Okay, my opponent started with e4 and I played e5. Now, in the past, I used to always play the Scandi um, until I want to say about March of 2019. And then I started playing e5, and after knight f3, I would play knight f6, the Petrov, also known as the Russian defense. However, in this moment, I was already freaking out a little bit because my trainer, International Master Calvin Blocker, told me, no, 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 I don't want you playing knight f6 the Petrov. It's too solid and too comfortable. You need to play knight c6. And I said, oh, well, should I study the lines and stuff? And he said, no, just play it. So that is what I did. Okay. And this was my agreement to myself that I would at least play it once, and that if I got killed, I would let myself even play a Scandi later in the tournament. So knight c6, and I held my breath. He played bishop b5, and this is called the Roy Lopez, the Spanish opening. You guys probably know this way better than me. And I played knight f6. This is called a Berlin defense, and I did plan this move. But I'm not planning on going into the ending, which would occur after castles, knight takes, and then I think d4. Is it d4 there? I'm not sure. But there is an ending that occurs. Actually, I'm curious now. Let's have a look since I don't quite remember. I've got the opening book up. Castle. Yeah, it is d4. And after knight d6, attacking the bishop, they take, attacking the knight. And after knight f5, the queens come off. Yeah, and this is known as the famous Berlin Wall ending, which I've seen in many, many Super GM top level tournaments. But I was not planning on going into this. What I was planning instead was after castles, the second most common move, bishop c5. Now, this is the Beverwyck variation, and I did briefly look at this one time with National Master Michael Jolson, who is also my boss at Progressive Chess. So I had a feeling this was the right move, but now my opponent started to think. And I started to think as well and get worried because I'm like, I think this is the right move. I don't know. I think it is. I think it is. I kind of like psyched myself out into not being sure if this was correct, which, okay, I'm very, very new to this line, so I'm not too upset that I forgot and wasn't sure. But I was like, why can't he just play takes, and take the pawn, right? That would remove the defender of my pawn on e5. So that is actually what happened. And in this position, I was like, okay, well, my thought was that this is probably theory, and I don't see a way to get the pawn back immediately. I thought about knight takes e4, but I was worried about things like well, not just rook e1, but queen e2, and that would attack my knight and create a lot of pressure. And I was just thinking that with my king in the center and his king safe, this probably isn't a good idea for me to grab this pawn. So I thought the compensation must be in the form of activity. Notice my bishop is open from the exchange, and I have the two bishops. And I thought maybe I can be down a pawn, and that's okay. So I played the move castles. So I ask you, viewers, do you agree with my assessment? Well, it turns out that castles is the losing move of the game. I'm not even joking with you. It's the losing move of the game because of the move d3. Yeah, and there is no immediate win for white, but white is just much better. They're just simply up a pawn with a better position. Okay, they have better center control. I have double pawns. They don't have double pawns. I might have the two bishops, but it's not enough to make up for white's easy play, like bishop here, knight here, rook e1. I mean, this is all very nice for white, and black essentially gets no compensation for the pawn. So after knight takes castles is a losing move. I reviewed this game briefly with Michael Jolson after the game, and he said, Stacia, you need to calculate. I told him my theory about not liking queen e2 and the pressure after knight takes e4, and he said, Stacia, calculate. So this was a very, very good lesson for me. I've never had to calculate in openings before, to be honest. I always know the lines pretty well. But here, I didn't know the line, so calculation was warranted. And it turns out that after knight takes e4, note that rook e1, although you need to look at this move, would lose because it undefends f2. So I think here we could just play takes. Oh, and I remember a line here. This is really funny. Let's see. If king here, I think that's just crazy because we're going to play queen f6 check. If king h1, we actually don't have to take the rook right away. We can play queen h4 even stronger. And the idea here is that we're going to play knight g3 checkmate because we pinned the h-pawn. So that's kind of funny. So he still doesn't have time to move the rook. And he can't move the king. So I don't even know what he would do here, honestly. I'm going to consult the computer. The best move is knight f3. Knight f3. Attacking the queen. Now if I go check, how is that not mate? I'm really confused. Okay, let's just look. Oh, I'm pinned. Wow. Okay, so that's why. So it stops mate because it pins my knight. Wow, I did not see that. So this is why it helps to look at crazy opening lines like this, because there is some wild stuff. Okay. So after knight takes, rook e1 does fail due to this. I do not have to play queen h4. After the king moves, I could simply take the rook. This would be winning, no doubt. But rook e1 is not the correct move. It's queen e2. Now queen e2 attacks the knight. I still have this pin on the f-pawn, which is nice. But my knight's under attack. And if I move my knight to f6, he has discoveries such as knight takes c6 check, winning my queen. So I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, that's the best move. That would be really embarrassing. So I saw this line and I got scared. So I didn't want to take here. But after queen e2, there actually is a move for black. And that's the move queen d5. It's the only move. Queen h4 is also a move, actually, but it's actually not good due to d3. Yeah, what do I do here? Wow, I can take on f2. So this is a crazy computer line because I don't think I would consider this. Queen takes f2 check. Wow. So the point is that he can't move his king because I take the queen. So he's forced to take this way. Now I can take and take. Wow, that actually is interesting. But unfortunately, the computer says white's still better here. I'm not entirely sure why. I kind of like black here. I'm trying to examine. White is not developed yet. White's king is here, but the queens are off the board, so maybe the king is actually good on f2. And is this knight peskier than he looks? I don't know. Odd play here. Okay, we're getting on a sideline. But honestly, I'm kind of considering this line as a secret weapon. Okay, castles, bishop c5, the Beverwick variation. He grabbed the pawn. And castles is the blunder. I played knight takes. Yeah, and if you're wondering why I'm spending so much time on this variation, it's because this is pretty much it. After d3, it's all over. I'll show you one tactic that I was trying to work out, but it didn't work. And I lost a very painful game for over 2 hours. So after queen e2, you go queen d5. Now, white has a lot of different moves after this, but everything gives black just about equality, at least according to the computer. So I was afraid of f3 here, but that's not advised because it's illegal. Notice the pin. So d3 is a move, but the thing that's nice about queen d5 is that it not only defends our knight, but it attacks the white knight. So I actually could grab this right now. And even here, I think black's doing quite well. We'll castle soon. Okay, so knight takes, queen e2, queen d5. Okay, so here d3 doesn't really do much for white, but there's a lot of other moves to consider. There's knight c3, there's, oops, not that move. C4, there's even b4, just a tempo on the bishop. And then, you know, I think you have to look at this, although the queen's defending. Also knight f3, knight d3, attacking the bishop, even knight c4. There's a lot to look at here. I think knight c4, I would castle. Yeah, castle. So this is the saving move. And notice you cannot go queen d4, which feels like it's the same thing, but then there's knight f3 hitting the queen. Now this is going to be really bad because what do? If I move the queen too far away, he'll take with check. So I have to maintain defense of the knight. If I go queen d5 now he has d3, attack the pin piece. That would win. And if I go off to the right somewhere, well, here d3 wins. Here, c3. Still d3, right? Why not? Yeah, so queen d4 is a huge blunder because of knight f3. You have to move the queen, and now d3 cannot be stopped. The only reason queen d5 worked is because we were attacking the knight. And in that line, if he tries the same thing with knight here, yeah, bishop e6. He's not attacking the queen, so we have time for this move. That undoes the pin. Now if d3 happens, there's no pin. So we just go knight f6. So yeah, I did not calculate all of this during the game. Hopefully you can sympathize with me. I don't think I had any chance of calculating all this during the game, honestly. I merely saw queen e2 and I saw issues, and I avoided them. Although I am very thankful for this game because I will never forget this line again. That's for sure. So let's continue. I'm going to show you the rest of the game. After castles, my opponent played the best move, d3. And yeah, I want to show you something really interesting. Okay, it's going to look ugly on the screen, but I'm going to show you the computer eval, which I have over here, okay? Watch, or just look at this. d3 plus 1.62 for white. It's the only move for white, and it provides a huge advantage. I think that's hard to see over the board. But what that means, because I'm better interpreting computer analysis than seeing these lines over the board, what it means is that after d3, black has not only no compensation for the pawn, but has a worse position due to the pawns, and white has easy natural development. He'll simply retreat his knight to f3, bring his bishop out. Yeah, it's just better center control. And I had a losing game after this, unfortunately. So it was in this position, and this is the last thing I'll go over. But it was in this position that I found an interesting move. Bishop takes f2. Check. And if you'd like to pause your video, go ahead and find out if this works or if it doesn't. And if it doesn't, why not? Okay, so I kind of told you already that it doesn't work, but I think it's important to see why. In the game, I saw that after bishop takes f2 check, king takes, I have the nice move queen d4 check. That would fork the king and the knight. And even after a move like bishop e3, I could simply take the knight, and I think that at least I've won my pawn back, right? Because I won the f pawn. And sure enough, the computer agrees with this. So let's see. It likes king e1 better than bishop e3. Bishop e3 is the second move, but I mean, even after this, I think like king e1 is not natural looking anyway. So I'm going to actually do here. This develops a piece, right? But I take. And here, yeah, black's actually better. So I calculated that correctly. But when we return, we have to look at two moves, right? Because there's king takes, yes, but there's also rook takes. There's also moving the king away, but then I win my pawn back. I just retreat and say, hey, I got my pawn back. You know, I think that would be okay. Let's look at that. Yeah, computer says white's slightly better, but it's just a game now. At least I'm in the game. So the real critical move here is rook takes. So let's calculate. Bishop takes, rook takes. Now my idea here was knight takes e4. I like knight takes e4. It would attack the rook, and if white tried to grab my knight, then I play queen takes queen check, which would be really nice, winning the game. But I think that I have to look at other options here. So after rook takes, I can play knight takes, but now instead of taking the knight, white can move his rook out of the way. This bishop isn't here. I sacked it on f2. So he can move his rook to a lot of different places. And I think anywhere that kind of x-rays this knight is probably good. I actually calculated rook e2. And I thought that, okay, the idea was queen d4, right? So queen d4, check, even if he goes king h1, I thought now I can take the knight, but then he takes my knight on e4 and he's defended by the pawn. So that comes with tempo on my queen. And I'd have to move my queen away. I'm not sure where, maybe just here. But after that, I don't think I got enough. I'm just down a piece. So let's look at that. Bishop takes, rook takes. I thought queen, g4, but yeah, I mean, the computer's laughing at me. Hold on, I didn't even do this right. I'm so sorry, you guys. Okay. Yeah, I played rook e8 in the game because I determined this doesn't work. Okay, I wanted to play this move, this first. So I win 2 pawns for the piece. Wow. Oh, hang on a second. Rook takes, knight takes. Okay. Wow, I'm so sorry that I screwed that up. So we're taking with a rook and then taking on e4. So my idea is if he does something stupid, like takes, I will take the queen. I think that's pretty obvious to see now. But he can just move the rook, right? And after he moves like to rook e2, which is what I thought, my queen d4 check idea, I don't think it works anymore. I thought king h1, that's actually the worst move. There is rook e3, king f1. Yeah, there's a lot of moves here. Rook e3. Just simply blocking, just leaving the king there. That's kind of funny. Bishop e3 might lose because it blocks him taking my knight. But let's say king h1. This is what I calculated. Even here, white's still better. I take the knight, but now he takes here. So I think I'm in real trouble then. And in fact, the computer says I should play knight f2 check. Oh, wow, I missed this. Even this isn't good, though. White's still better. Am I down a piece? Let's see. 1, 2, 3 minor pieces. Yeah, I have 1 minor piece. So he has 1 rook, 3 minor pieces. I have 2 rooks and 1 minor piece. So I have 13 points of material, and he has what, 14 for my 13? So he's still 2 pieces for a rook is better. So yeah, I don't know. So none of this actually worked, which is why I played the move rook e8. But, you know, I mean, I realized that if I don't find anything crazy, then I'm just going to be worse. I played rook e8 and he played knight f3. That's the best move. And now I'll show you the rest of the game because there really weren't too many tricks after this. I didn't want to trade bishops. Yeah, and this was I think king or queen d6 was a mistake. This move. Yeah, it is because now he can play h3. h3. I'm pinning the knight, and the knight is helping to support this e5 push, which is a fork on my knight and queen. So h3 is annoying. And I don't want to trade pieces either. So I actually decided to go for this and sacrifice. It looks crazy, but at least I have pressure. I mean, I don't know. It's not enough. Computer laughs at it and says, white's +3. But I mean, if I don't attack, then I'm lost anyway. So I was trying my best to at least mix it up a little. And that didn't quite happen, so yeah. Yeah, and white just played it safe, and I think this was a real true moment where I felt like I was running out of counterplay right here. These pawns are too strong. I did win one of them. So, you know, this is a rough game, and I suffered. I mean, okay, this is just lost. I mean, what am I supposed to do here? But I will say this. I'm proud of myself that I played the opening that was recommended to me, knight c6, and I do now see the value in it. My trainer did say that you should play this move. He's like, if you don't figure out over the board, you will learn something. And I do understand now that I learned something very valuable. I learned how crazy these openings can be with taking the pawn or not. And now that queen d5 line will be burned into my memory forever. So this thing we looked at here, instead of castles, taking queen e2, queen d5. Yeah, that is burned into my memory for all time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a painful loss to start the tournament, but as I mentioned, I managed to bounce back. So I'll be back with more videos. Thank you for watching. Bye.